Questions about the 49ers, and this time of the week we get all the answers. Nice enough to join us once again. He, of course, is a 49er and a Giant analyst as well, NBC Sports Authentic, and he's a host of the Quality Hang with Rod Brooks pod. Rod Brooks joining us. Hey, before we get into the medicals, Rod, I'm taking a little flack here because I just admitted my first game I ever saw Bart Starr played in it. So that's true. What was
First
your
off,
first? Yeah, I was going to ask your first NFL game, but the floor is yours.
don't apologize for that. You saw Bart Starr play. That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool. First game I saw, oh man, I want to say it was 1983. I grew up in Houston, and the Oilers back in the early 80s were really, really, really bad. And the tickets were easy to get. So that's when my family decided, let's go watch football games. So I don't. Right. I don't remember specifics, but it was 1983, and it wasn't the best football. But man, I mean, I was hooked before, and seeing it live was awesome, man.
Rod, real quick, I didn't know you were an H-Town representative. What part of H-Town you grew up in, sir?
South Side, baby, Sunnyside,
Really?
South Acres, South Park. You know the area?
Yeah, I went to school down there, man.
Yeah. Oh, you went to TSU. Okay. Yeah. So you know about Frenchies. All right.
Yeah, come on, baby. Chicken. Absolutely. Come on now.
And by the way, we are talking fried chicken. So is that somewhat problematic? Sure, but mind your business.
Did you ever have an opportunity to see Warren Moon?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No,
wow.
And so I covered those so from 93 until I left and came to the Bay in August of 97, I covered those Oiler teams. So yeah, I saw the debacle in Buffalo and the subsequent fallout from that. And then when they drafted Steve McNair and the changeover, then eventually going to Tennessee. So yeah, I mean, I grew up watching the Oilers. I grew up loving the Oilers, unfortunately. And then watching them just absolutely break your heart and then leave, right? So
yeah,
the wildest thing in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Rod, it's funny as you're talking about Houston and the Oilers, when they had the first Super Bowl there, once they built a new stadium, I remember being there for Radio Row and all that. I remember driving down, I don't even know what freeway it is, you guys would know.
16.
I remember, seeing that Astrodome, which at one time, eighth wonder of the world. And then next to it was the new stadium, which just dwarfed it. It was incredible how small the Astrodome looked compared to the newer stadium.
And when I was a kid, going to the Astrodome was huge. Mainly because it was the largest air-conditioned building in town. So, that had its benefits because Houston can be pretty hot.
Did they have an amusement park near it? I've heard of it. Yeah.
Astro World was across the street. But every time I go home, I am always blown away about how small the Astrodome looks compared to, what do they call it now? NRG Stadium. Yeah. It's amazing how small and tiny it looks. It does play a trick on your eye and on your mind.
Man, joined by Rod Brooks. That's fantastic. I had no clue, man. I had no clue you were an H-Town representative, man. Timmy Chan, straight.
The original Timmy Chan. You know what's up? The one on MLK.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Rod, I mean, we can talk about it all day. That's second home, right? We talked about this last Friday. We got you on for the first week of the season. And I asked you one of the questions about the health, the injuries, George Kittle, Brock Purdy, Trent Williams, guys like that. CMC, we pinpointed. I hope I didn't jinx it, but man, just your overall take on the injuries and how the team is moving forward in week 2.
Your skepticism about whether they would stay healthy was absolutely 100% spot on. So I don't know if that's necessarily feathering your cap and you want to take that, but yeah, any skepticism about their injury situation is warranted. I will say though, to me, these are football related injuries. I don't think it's anything bad luck wise. I mean, Brock Purdy got tackled on the 9-yard scramble. That was completely and totally out of necessity. And, his toe got a little banged. I shouldn't say a little banged up, but his toe got banged up. George Kittle got hurt playing football. This Trent Williams news that's coming out today that he didn't practice all week, didn't practice today. Could Trent Williams play on Sunday without practicing? Sure. But Trent didn't look all that great in Seattle. Now, did that have to do with Trent Williams being in his late 30s and not playing in the preseason? Sure. Could it have something to do with him not feeling 100%? Well, when you look at the news coming out this weekend today that he didn't practice and his status is questionable, it makes you think, and it don't make you think really good. But all that being said, the fact that Christian McCaffrey right now is their healthiest frontline player is a blessing and somewhat funny and ironic. And let's hope it stays that way, because even though this injury situation for the Niners is not optimal by any stretch of the imagination, taking it one game at a time, as you obviously have to do, going into New Orleans against the Saints team that is very bad against the run. They gave up 146 yards to the Arizona Cardinals last week on 5.5 yards per carry. So this is a game where if you don't have your quarterback and you don't have George Kittle, who really makes that offense go in the pass and in the run game, this is an old school game where you run the ball at a Saints team that's not good at stopping the run. You lean on Christian McCaffrey. You get more out of Brian Robinson. Jordan James is up. He's active. Maybe he gets a few carries. You shrink the game. You tighten this game. Don't make the mistakes you made last week to the two interceptions. And I'm sure we'll get to special teams in a second. And I think you can get out of there with a 17-10 win or a 20-13 win. Tighten it up, run the ball, play defense, get back on the plane, and hopefully you start to get healthy.
Rod Brooks joining us as he does every week. I wanted to ask you about Jauan Jennings, who from what I saw, and I just saw, on X some video, he looked really good in practice today. Where are we with him, and how much will Kendrick Bourne be expected to contribute this week?
My colleague on the Niner pre and post game shows on NBC Sports Bay Area, the Don, Matt Mayoko, tweeted out that video that you saw. And Matt is always, because he's a reporter at heart, he's always very cautious, when he puts things out there, whether it's on social media or whether it's on our air. And his impression, I'll use that word, is that Jauan Jennings is good to go and he will play. So you go from the scare of the shoulder injury to, okay, he had an MRI. They didn't see anything there. Had a CAT scan. Didn't see anything there. Now we get to Friday. Jauan Jennings is running and he's dunking the basketball over the goalpost, which I'm sure is the video that you're referring to. Yep. So Jauan Jennings, he's going to be there. He's going to be there in the mix. That's not going to be a problem. Obviously, Ricky Pearsall is going to be there. Kendrick Bourne, I'm not exactly sure how much he's going to be able to contribute. And if I'm really being pinned down for an answer, I would say no, just simply due to the fact that he just got here. And obviously he has familiarity with Kyle Shanahan, the system or what have you. But as I'm sure we'll talk about, you got Mac Jones in instead of Brock Purdy. So while I think that things will be, the game plan is not going to be radically different. Yes, you'd rather have Brock Purdy than Mac Jones, but the Niners do not have to have a radically different game plan for Mac Jones than they would for Brock Purdy, because they possess, although Purdy is better, they possess similar quarterbacking attributes. So I'll say all that to say this: with Bourne just getting in the mix and the Niners in sort of a scramble situation, pardon the pun, with Mac Jones being a quarterback, I just don't know how much you can expect for those two guys to have any amount of gelling, so to speak, where Bourne could come through. This is definitely for the next few weeks, as the Niners are really up against it injury-wise, because you're not going to get Kittle back for a few weeks. You're not going to get Brandon Ayuk more than likely back until week 6, and that's the game in Tampa after the Thursday night game in L.A., in a few weeks. I think the Bourne situation is to help the Niners out here in the upcoming weeks, not necessarily for this weekend in New Orleans.
Joined by Rod Brooks. RB, let's stay right there with Mac Jones, as you alluded to. Let's have a conversation, right? I'm telling you, right.
Okay.
713-832. What number?
281-830-8004. Hit Mac Jones on the low. All right,
I'm trying to tell you. How about this? Because me and Whitey were having this quick conversation in the first segment of the show. Kyle Shanahan is known to be stubborn. That's the word we use here, adjective we use here on the Drive Guys. am I wrong if I'm saying this? We come into this week and Mac Jones and the offense, as you're talking about, it's not Brock Purdy. It's not operating on all functions, on all high level. But Kyle Shanahan is supposed to be the whisperer, the quarterback whisperer. Am I wrong in saying that I expect Mac Jones and Kyle Shanahan to stick to the plan more to 90% compared to 100% of Brock Purdy here? And if he doesn't, he peels it back a little bit. Could I pin this on Kyle Shanahan as much as I could pin this, the play and style, the way they go about it on Mac Jones?
Well, first things first, Kyle Shanahan is stubborn. All coaches are stubborn, okay? Every single one of them. And I don't even think it's varying degrees of stubbornness. You don't become a head coach. And I'll even talk about high school. You don't become a head coach in high school, in college, and in the pros if you don't have a certain amount of stubbornness. You get to that point where you are the person in charge. You got to that point because you have a certain football worldview, and that has served you well to where you eventually become the head coach. Like I said, I'll take it all the way back to high school. So understand what you're saying. A lot of people say about Kyle Shanahan. I think his stubbornness is inherent amongst people in his profession. Now, as far as the game itself, I think this sets up well, even though, again, not having your $53+ million a year quarterback is not optimal by any stretch of the imagination. Kyle Shanahan has long been an admirer of Mac Jones, all right, going all the way back to when they drafted Trey Lance. And there was serious discussion. I never bought it because I knew that they had their sights set and how they wanted to play the position. They had their sights set on Trey Lance. But there was serious discussion by people who are knowledgeable about football-related matters that Mac Jones is going to be taken with that third pick instead of Trey Lance a few years ago. So Kyle Shanahan likes Mac Jones, is very familiar with Mac Jones. And as I said earlier, he likes the way that Mac Jones plays the position, which is you don't freelance. You don't do goofy stuff. You don't question the play call. You don't change the play call. Not that you would have that ability in the Kyle Shanahan offense to do so anyway. Right. You get 2 play calls, you pick between the 2, and whatever you got is what you got. But Mac Jones is Kyle Shanahan's type quarterback, just like Brock Purdy is Kyle Shanahan's type quarterback. So I think that, again, the situation is not optimal, but you have a guy that Kyle Shanahan likes, is familiar with. Mac Jones wants to turn this into what Sam Darnold turned this into a couple of years ago when he was the backup, turn it into an eventual starting job. And now he goes from Minnesota and he's entrenched in Seattle. Mac Jones would like to go that same trajectory. So first and foremost, Mac Jones wants to help the Niners win this game on Sunday. That's the most important thing. But behind that, Mac Jones wants to put some good stuff on tape, do a good job so he can get himself one of the coveted starting jobs in the NFL. So I don't think I think we're going to see, mainly due to the fact that you don't have Kittle, and as I mentioned, the Saints are not good in stopping the run. You're going to see a run-heavy attack. But in terms of what is going to be put on Mac Jones's shoulders in terms of what to do in actually throwing the football, I think it's going to look very similarly to what is asked of Brock Purdy when he's asked to throw the football. The main difference between the two, and this is where Mac Jones has to be very smart and very careful. He's not as mobile as Brock Purdy. So Mac Jones has to stay on schedule, cannot do goofy stuff to get him to get the team, in bad positions, but also don't try to run around out there and possibly get yourself hurt, because you get past Mac Jones, it's a disaster situation for the Niners at quarterback. So the onus is on the offensive line, obviously, and is Trent Williams going to be there to protect Mac Jones a lot better than they did Brock Purdy on Sunday in Seattle, so Mac Jones can be comfortable, get the ball out on time to where he's supposed to get it out, and he doesn't have to run around because, A, that's not his game, and B, if he suffers the same fate as Brock Purdy, the Niners are in an absolute DEFCON 1 situation.
Yeah, we're catching up, of course, with 49er analyst Rod Brooks, and there are a lot of things the 49ers have to be concerned with right now. We'll circle back to some of those, I'm sure, but I want to look at the other side of the coin because they are 1-0. What impressed you the most, Rod, about the way the defense performed last week?
Oh, my God, man. I'm glad you mentioned the defense because that's exactly where I was going to go. I'm pretty sure I mentioned this when I was on with you guys last week. My big question about the Niners going into this season, and maybe there still is some question because we are just talking about one game coming out of training camp and coming out of preseason. But I wondered how long it was going to take the Niners defense with new coordinator, newish coordinator in Robert Saleh, but new coordinator, new pieces, and young pieces in key places, how long it was going to take for those guys to get going alongside the guys going to bring it every single day. And we saw it with Bosa, Warner, and Diamador Lenore. I'm still going to be somewhat skeptical here until we see a few more games. But answering that question after one game, man, that defense is on fire. It was on absolute fire. D. Winters was all over the place, along with Fred Warner. I think you got some good interior line play from guys like Yetur Gross-Matos and Michael Williams put some good stuff on tape. The secondary did an absolutely outstanding job. I mentioned Lenore. He had Jackson Smith and Jigba. He had that dude in jail. He couldn't go anywhere. Green was outstanding. Marquise Siegel, after a rough start, he got things going. Upton Stout had some really good play. So again, it's just one game. I want to see a little bit more tape, but going to Seattle, knowing that they want to stop the run, the Niners not being able to stop the run last year, to go to Seattle and shut down that run game the way that they did, and to blitz Sam Darnold as much as they did, and that's the Robert Saleh effect. Sam Darnold was blitzed on, I got the numbers here, he was blitzed on 28% of his dropbacks. And I love what Robert Saleh did. Even with these new guys, he was throwing all sorts of stuff out there. There were times where the Niners would have 8, 9 guys at the line of scrimmage, and you're thinking, okay, he's going to blitz. And there were times that he did. There were other times where he would have a solid 8, 9 guys at the line of scrimmage, and then they would drop back.
Yeah.
A part of it would be zone coverage. Over on the other side would be man. It was just some real crazy defensive mad scientist stuff. Now, again, were they able to do that because they were coming out of many, many weeks of repetition and practice out of the preseason training camp? Maybe, but what your eyes tell you and what the results were, they matched up to me. Great. You saw a good, fast, aggressive defense led by a madman in Robert Saleh. And the numbers, the win and the defensive numbers prove that what they did was successful. Can they replicate it?
RB, you talked about Diamador Lenore, and I'm with you. I think he's kind of quietly, because it feels like he has publicized that, hey, I'm one of the best cornerbacks in the league, but quietly throughout the league doesn't feel like he's recognized as a top 3. Sometimes now it feels like, he's being mentioned as top 5 guy, but within that locker room, I think Diamador Lenore has set itself apart.
Yes.
What's the feeling around the ball club is Renardo Green is probably going to be the guy who gets picked on, or at least, chances will come his way a little more. How comfortable is Robert Saleh in knowing that he's going to be the guy that probably is going to have to stand on all 10?
He's very comfortable with that because, as I mentioned, they blitz Sam Darnold on 28% of his dropbacks.
Coming after him.
They're very comfortable with that. They have 2 physical, big, aggressive, mentally strong corners. They're perfectly fine with that. And so from their physical attributes, and particularly Green's physical attributes, he's also done it before. What we saw from him last year, he put some good stuff on tape. He was tracking to be a guy that you can pick on him at your peril on the other side of Diamador Lenore. But here's another reason why I know Robert Saleh likes it and he's going to be aggressive, because he really feels like, with the way that they're going to stop the run, saw it in one game against Seattle, but also that he knows that he's got a front that is going to, if not get to the quarterback and get him down, at least speed him up or harass him to where they're going to make a mistake. He feels good enough that the coverage on the back end is going to be able to hold up as the front goes after the quarterback and does all the hunting. So they feel really, really, really solid about what they're getting on the back end. And when they get Malik Mustafa back here in a few weeks, I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, but like I said, my questions about the defense, I got some really good answers to them on Sunday. And again, the Saints, all respect to them, they're not a good football team. But if the Niners put some more good stuff on tape defensively And if they put some more good numbers up defensively and they're able to carry this squad through these next few weeks where you get a couple of games at home and you're trying to weather this injury storm and you can see that this defense is the tip of the spear, they're going to have something cooking with that squad.
Yeah, we're talking 49ers with Rod Brooks here, the Drive guys. Adrian Martinez, as you mentioned, if he had to play, might be nervous time. But I know Kyle Shanahan had said this week, hey, we might want to add a quarterback. We don't know if we can. So why didn't they? And do you think they still might, depending on how much the Brock Purdy situation clears up in the next week or so?
It's going to be, to me, wholly dependent on Purdy's toe and how it heals. So the talk is, the quotes, went from long shot to play on Sunday. Brock Purdy's not going to play on Sunday. Then the second sort of neon light quote was, it's an injury, and I'm paraphrasing here, that's going to take weeks to heal. Then, it was said publicly by John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan that the toe injury, while it's like turf toe, it's not exactly turf toe. So the healing will be different and possibly faster. So once they get through, if he hurt himself, Purdy did last Sunday, let's just say they get to next Monday or Tuesday and they do whatever the tests are, the evaluations or whatever, and they see that, okay, we're seeing some healing. I think they will maybe not try to skate a couple of more weeks with two quarterbacks, but I think that urgency will subside. If the healing is still slow or what have you in that regard, I think then they will definitely start to look for a third quarterback. But I would think right now, if there was someone that they really wanted or someone they had in mind that they could get, they would have already gone after it. But I really feel like, Brock Purdy's toe is going to be the main indicator or driving force as to whether they go with that emergency third quarterback or not.
RB, last one for me. You talked about the Saints and, of course, trying to sneak through the next few weeks. We got the Saints, Cardinals, Jacksonville heading into the Rams game. In a perfect world, and, we know that's not so much as every single day around here. What are you looking at for that record to be kind of heading into the Rams game?
They get this week, in my estimation. Like I said, low scoring, run the ball, play defense. Mac Jones doesn't throw any interceptions. I think they win this bad boy by 10 points. If he throws a pick, it could be a little bit dicier, but I still see the Niners winning, at least by a touchdown, maybe 6 points. Jacksonville, that first home game, a lot of pressure for the Niners, again, having to deal with the injuries. I could see that Jacksonville game maybe being a little bit dicey, but the Niners are a better squad. I think the Arizona game, that's the one I think is going to be a bit problematic for the Niners, a division game, and Arizona has been a thorn in the Niners side over the past few weeks. But I see the Niners coming out of September. I see them coming out of September with a winning record for sure. That Rams game, that Rams outfit is a completely totally different set of circumstances. I think the Rams are to have proven otherwise, and I hope the Niners are the team that helps prove otherwise. The Rams are on that tier beneath the Eagles and what we saw from the Packers last night. Yeah. Good job, Jerry Jones. That's what they needed. That's really what the Packers needed, is an all-world guy to go get the quarterback. But the Rams are a tier below. I could see the Niners being in good form going up against the Rams, but all of it is going to be predicated on health. Putting that aside for a second, being as mistake-free as possible, and hopefully they have fixed the special teams mistakes or the kicking mistakes with bringing in Pinheiro and getting rid of Moody. Mac Jones, stay healthy, take care of the ball. Christian McCaffrey, stay healthy, run the ball. That defense continues to get better, to show improve. This is a part of the schedule that the Niners can handle before they get into the tougher aspect of it, starting with the Rams at the end of the month.
All right. Thank you, Rod. We'll watch you on the TV, and we'll talk to you next week. We appreciate it. Enjoy the game.
All right. Thank you, fellas. Have a great weekend.